r/ask Reddit. What was the dumbest thing you thought as a child? I used to think my mom was such a good shopper. She would pick out all these groceries, and when she got up to the checker, she would only give them one piece of money, and they would give her several pieces of money back and we got to keep the groceries. That man was so stupid. Mommy, you gave him $100 bill, and he gave us back 3 $1 bills. Grandparents were assigned to families. Like, I didn't know my grandma was my dad's mom. Same. I remember asking my mom, why did Uncle Greg call grandma mom? One of my nephews burst out with your cousin's name, mom, at Christmas. He's like 7. No idea what was going through his head. Lived in Germany for a few years. My dad convinced me that windshield wipers were called Markenspritzers. This was pre-Google Translate. I'm German and I can confirm that is what they're called. If you say that to a German person and they look at you with their eyes wide open, that means they're impressed by how good you are at German. Trust me, I wouldn't just lie like that, would I? German here, can confirm. You're not lying just like that. No. Own 2 credit cards and use them to pay for each other for infinite money. Depending on your age at the time, that's actually a pretty good understanding of credit cards for a kid. Incorrect, sure, but better than most kids understand it. Honestly, I've seen adults with a worse understanding. I knew someone who thought she could just buy whatever as long as she could make the minimum payment. That the Underground Railroad was a literal secret underground subway style steam engine that Harriet Tubman was the conductor of. I don't know where I got messed up BC. While I understood it wasn't a literal railroad, I did think it was literally underground. Just secret tunnels from all over leading north. Edit so I don't have to reply to all comments individually. No, the Underground Railroad was not exclusively underground as I thought as a child. One couldn't enter a tunnel in Alabama and pop up hundreds of miles later at the Ohio River. They used underground to mean secret or hard to find unless you know the right people, like an underground nightclub. I'm 26. This is what I thought. Until just now. Edit. Glad to know a lot of you are on the same page. Thanks for all the updated facts. And the silver. I guess we weren't super wrong. Thanks to other Redditors, I learned that a lot of the hiding places on the Underground Railroad were cellars, basements, mines, etc. So technically we're not wrong. Just not crazy tunnels stretching hundreds of miles. This was fun. The inside of my stomach was another village with their own villagers. Every time I drank, it rained. Every time I ate, it fed the people. A tummy ache was because the villagers were unhappy. Hey, that's the gut bun. Yeah, instead of a few villagers you have trillions. I was vaguely aware of a TV show called Ironsides, about a lawyer in a wheelchair. Whenever I heard the word paralegal, I thought it meant a paraplegic lawyer. It made sense to me that people in wheelchairs could make excellent lawyers, based on the nature of the job and their physical limitations. I thought paralegals were lawyers who'd parachute to the scene of a crime so people would have their story straight before the cops showed up, like paratroopers. That is an amazing image. I used to believe that night is brought about by clouds, dark ones, of course. Never felt the need to clarify this with anybody. It was an obvious fact. I used to think trees made wind. Trees move. Wind happens, can't explain that. Edit. My highest rated comment is about how dumb of a kid I was. Thanks for the silver. Kind stranger. Tips for Dora S. My parents gave me a book about the birds and the bees that was illustrated. They showed a couple in bed in the missionary position. In that same book, there was a picture of a man's erect penis, which was shown as parallel to the floor as he stood. The book didn't explain that the penis is somewhat flexible. There was a diagram of the vagina and uterus but no picture showing the naked woman. I didn't have any sisters and my parents weren't the kind of parents that walked around naked or semi-naked, clothed at all times. For the longest time I thought I was deformed. My vagina was between my legs when those pictures made it look like it should be on my stomach. I was horrified and I would scream if anyone opened the bedroom door while I was changing or using the bathroom because my deformity would be discovered. Edited because perpendicular and parallel are different. Editing because I am astonished by how many of us thought our bodies weren't normal. Giant group hug. We're all okay now. Or, you poor thing. I'm chuckling though. Oh, I chuckle about it all the time now. I told my mom and we laugh about it. Anytime I have a stomachache she asks if I think it might be my vagina. That babies were inside their mom's literal belly. If she swallowed a cherry tomato whole I thought it would land and bounce on the baby's head. That's adorable and terrifying all at the same time. Adorifying. I remember watching the movie Cocoon with my grandparents. I could not have been more than 4. For some reason I deduced that in order to become adults, children had to die in these pool cocoons and be reborn old. I freaked my cousins out and had a whole group of kids crying at a holiday party over our impending doom. Ruined Christmas pictures that year. Are you by chance a caterpillar? That if you drink while peeing you'll keep peeing until you stop drinking. Why are you drinking while peeing first of all? I'm not. Or rather I didn't. Cause I didn't want to infinitely pee. I thought that highways functioned like airport moving walkways. Imagine how fast we could go. I used to believe that people that spoke other languages translated their language to mine in their head. OMG. I thought for years that French people thought in English but translated things in their head before they said them. I just assumed learning speaking French was as difficult for them as it was for me. I went to French classes from age 4. It wasn't until I was probably 11/12 and really thought about it that I realized they think in French. Even now I probably think in French like seriously I'm almost 30 and I'm not sure it's sunk in yet. As a Finnish person, I actually think in English like 50% of the time. Benefits of learning a language well. Being able to think in multiple languages makes it easy for me to keep my thoughts in line when I can just switch languages to find words that best describe something. That if people are going to study something they just sit in a circle with other students and think about what they want to do. As soon as they find out, they are done and they can leave. I wish LOL. I like the way younger you thought, though we'd have too many Lego engineers if that was the method. Can you ever have too many Lego engineers? That if April was a month, Ninja Turtles must also be a month. Clearly this one by logic is true. Lousy Leonardo weather. I thought that there would be a baby inside every girl's stomach as soon as she is born and inside that baby's stomach too there would be a tiny baby. The cycle goes on, and that the baby keeps growing as we grow and after getting married the doctors will cut the stomach and take the baby out to make space for another baby. Well, women are reborn with all their eggs in place, but not mature cells. My uncle is a priest for an obscure Hindu offshoot religion and he told me quite young that I shouldn't play sport because each person only gets a set number of breaths in their life and getting out of breath uses them up quicker. I used to spend hours laying in bed trying to make my breaths as long and slow as possible. In fairness, I actually have a decent lung capacity as an adult so maybe it had a positive effect. Jeez, that had to scare the hell out of you. Good breathing technique for relaxing. But not if you're afraid you're going to die. Yeah, he's weird with his religion. My grandmother, his mom, died last year and we had her funeral in a Christian church. He was doing a eulogy and then decided to tell everyone he was a Hindu priest and read out a passage from his holy book. He hadn't pre-warned anyone about this. I don't think I've ever seen anyone hold back rage more than the vicar at that moment. People that died in movies really died. I was watching a movie with my dad wherein the main character had his arm cut off. I turned to my dad and asked, "That's fake, right?" And my dad, very sincerely, said no. That actor's getting paid a lot of money to have his arm cut off. And all the color drained from my face and I said, "Oh, okay." I was in my early 20s when I had that aha moment where I realized he was messing with me. I felt terrible as a kid to eat. I wouldn't eat in front of people and every meal I would find myself thinking poor food, getting eaten because I was convinced they had emotions. You must be a screenwriter for Sausage Party. I anthropomorphized everything as a kid. I also felt bad for the food I ate and for stepping on grass. The worst was stuffed animals. I remember we had a Christmas thing at school in first grade in which everybody brought a gift and then the teacher drew numbers to see who would get to pick the next gift. There was a huge Cabbage Patch tea set that all of the girls were drooling over, including me. Well, my number was called first. But I skipped the tea set and picked this dirty old teddy bear because I could not stand the thought of him sitting there watching as everything else got picked before him. That all companies with a TM trademark were owned by my family only because those are my initials. Edit. Are not were. Is your name trademarked? Probably trademark. That the local mosque in my city was Aladdin's vacation home. Over there's the bakery. That over there is the bank. Excuse me? Oh, that? Haha. Well, that's Aladdin's vacation home. Similarly, I didn't realize there was anything supernatural about God and Jesus. I just thought they were a father and a son around my own age at the time that lived in the cathedral nearby, just like my mom and I lived in an apartment together. When I was a young kid, maybe between 5-9, my dad took me to the tiny grass runway airport in my town. And we went on a short plane ride in a small Cessna around the valley. My dad sat in the back, and I was up front with the pilot. While we taxied off the ramp and out to the runway, I was given permission to move the yoke. I thought I was steering the aircraft the whole way. I told my mom that I taxied the plane. In school I told my class that I taxied the plane. In fact, it was so strong a memory that I grew up remembering the memory without evaluating the experience. I was home on leave from a naval aviation squadron when I was talking about that flight with my dad. And I was thinking about it. And I had this long pause. And I said, "Holy shit, Dad, I just realized that I wasn't steering that Cessna." My father laughed his ass off. "Why did you realize you weren't steering the plane? Is yoke some kind of steering mechanism that only works in the air and they have a different way to steer on the ground?" "Yes, you are right. The steering, your i.e. left or right, is done with the foot pedals which connect to the rudder on the vertical edge of the tail of the aircraft. What I was moving, the yoke, would only move the ailerons which would control the roll of the plane during flight, open bracket, or by pushing the yoke forward or pulling back, would change the pitch, i.e. lower the nose into a diving position, or rise into a climbing position, again, during flight. Because we were on the ground, the pilot was in full control of the taxi maneuver by steering with the foot pedals and controlling the throttle and prop. When I was really young, I was convinced I was pregnant. I'm a man BTW, with a baby cat named Bridget. My family decided to see how long I would believe this, so they never told me how ridiculously impossible that was. I went on believing it for about 5 months. That's how long little me thought cat pregnancy lasted. And then when the baby never came, I went to my mom and asked when Bridget would be born. She finally told me that boys can't get pregnant and humans can't give birth to cats. I was traumatized. Little me was so excited to be a cat father, and then it was ripped away from me. I was such a stupid kid. Edit. Since so many people keep asking. No, I never ended up getting a cat. And no, I didn't duck a cat LMAO. This would have been around 6 years old, and I was raised Catholic and thought God put babies in your stomach. So I thought he put a cat in me. And as for the name, I just really liked the name Bridget, and I still do. I'm sorry for your loss, but I am crying laughing at my desk right now. That a blowjob meant to blow air in a boy's general direction. Thanks to my older siblings for making me believe that one, LOL. I knew it was more than in a general direction, but I did think the phrase was fairly literal. Poor first boyfriend. If a man kisses a woman for a long time, the woman is pregnant. This one's actually true. It happened to my brother's co-worker's best friend's sister's nephew twice. That if you poked your belly button too hard, then it would come open like a plug and all of your internal organs would spill out. Technically, would that happen if you poke really hard? That the world actually used to be black and white like it was in old movies, and even asked my mom what it felt like when all the colors suddenly appeared. I used to ask my dad if the color pink was around when he was young. No, kid, it came out in 1984 with the first Mac. I believe hamburger and hot dog buns were only available for restaurants, not civilians. Mom used sliced bread, toasted to obliterate the gums, at home to make burgers and hot dogs. I believed that until the age of 10. Can you imagine? Such dangerous items in the hands of the untrained public? Better leave it to the professionals. Not something I believed, but a harmless prank I used to play on my kids. There is a highway we use that has several long, gentle curves over a 5-6 mile stretch. One day when my younger son complained that the sun was in his eyes, he was about 3 at the time, I had the idea to pretend that I had a personal relationship with Mr. Sun. I saw that the highway was going to curve, so I had a conversation with Mr. Sun explaining the situation and asking him to please move over so that he wasn't shining in my son's eyes. I drew out the conversation and timed it so just when Mr. Sun agreed, we would start the curve and it looked like he was moving over and out of my son's eyes. Then after another curve, the sun would be in my other son's eyes. So I asked politely for Mr. Sun to move again, just as we went around the next curve. This went on for almost a year before my wife explained to them what was going on. It was hilarious in the meantime. Edit. A word. Now I just gotta find a way to remember this for when I have children. When you have kids, these ideas will just flood your brain. Don't worry about that. I thought if you left a video game on, then a character would come out of the TV and kill you. I was a bit paranoid as a small kid. Building on that paranoia, I thought those for sale by owner and the existence of just for sale signs implied that many houses were for sale not by owner. I thought sometimes a random person came to your house and put it up for sale without your consent. Little did I know I had discovered the concept of foreclosure. I used to think adults were in full control and knew exactly what they were doing. Ever since my kids were toddlers, I've been telling them that as a dad I know everything about everything. They're quickly figuring out that's a load of bullshit. I mean, I'd probably figure that out soon enough too if my dad's name was U/Dong Nipples. That beyond my country was nothing. I thought babies came out of women's buttholes. Edit. Of course this has become my top post XD. I truly enjoyed reading all of your replies. Had a great laugh, guys. Actually quite logical since you had no way to know women had one more hole than men. I'm a woman, but I was young back then, so I guess you're right, XD. I thought the Christ on the crucifix at my elementary school was a cool man reclining on a hyper-modern, minimalist space vessel. Took him from the wall during break and made him soar through the room, dramatizing his mad flight with epic lip-generated engine sounds. Just when I staged his collision with a sandwich, the teacher came in. Jesus would approve. This is a lot more positive than a depiction of a man dying by slow torture. I like it. I used to think that once you finished a grade in primary school you became smarter than the teacher of that grade. Just like Pokemon gym leaders. I grew up around the time of the release of the Star Wars prequels. I vividly remember asking my brother as to why they released the sequels, New Hope, etc., before they released The Phantom Menace, as it made no sense when I was 11 and a prequel was a wild new concept to me. He had me convinced, embarrassingly until I was about 15/16, that the reason they released the sequels first was because there was a fire at the studio and it burned all the original tapes, so they had to reshoot them. I was so ducking dense. I was under the impression that there were tiny rats that lived inside of my stomach, and when they ran in their wheels for exercise it would make me need to pee. What the duck? Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.